Hello and welcome to Pull the Other One. This is David Frost introducing the bunch of brains who are going to solve some of life's little riddles in this week's edition of Pull the Other One. And they are Kenneth Dodd, Frank Carson, Ray Allen, and His Worship, Lord Charles. Our wise men will be wrestling with some of the world's great mishaps, like the disaster which befell South London salesman Mr. Harry Thompson. Mr. Thompson's car wouldn't start, and he realized that certain vital bits needed replacing. He also realized that the cheapest spare parts could be had from the local car breaker's yard. His own car being out of action, Mr. Thompson borrowed his neighbour's old but cherished Morris Minor and drove to the breaker's yard. His mistake was to drive right in and park in the yard. That's right, a grave error, because while Mr. Thompson haggled in the office over the price of spares, the borrowed Minor was mistaken for a wreck and hoisted into the crusher. On leaving the office with his hard-won bargains, Mr. Thompson asked where his car was and was directed to a 2-foot cube of crushed scrap metal. His neighbour was reported as saying, "Harry has apologised, but this has definitely spoilt our relationship." Not all our tales are quite as sad as that, but they're certainly that bizarre. And from here on in, I'll be giving the team just half the story and seeing if they can guess the rest.
Yes, but I'll bet the neighbour wasn't all that upset, because his mother-in-law was sitting on the back seat.
I don't...
There you are, that's your happy ending.
I'm not in great form for a show today. I'm rather depressed.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
I wish to God it would snow.
Why?
Well, then my garden would look the same as everybody else's. I went in the other day to look at a car, and I said to the fella, "Does it use a lot of oil?" He said it would if it got it.
Nearly everything on cars these days, it's all plastic. When you want a spare part now, I always go to a Tupperware party. Have you heard Mr. Frost's car outside?
No.
I bet the engine, a bit ropey, sounds like a washing machine with an oversized load.
You know, I came by Carson night, and I must say, I wish I hadn't got one now. I envy this chap that had his car all crushed up, because I pulled up outside this studio, and that doorman chap there, that facetious chap, he said, "You can't put that there." I said, "Don't get upset, doorman chap there. I'll put it over here." He said, "You can't put it there either." I said, "Oh, damn it, where can I put it?" He's a vulgar devil, that car park.
Frank, this Lord Charles fellow on the end, do you think he tipples?
Well, he certainly sounds like it at the moment.
Do you know when he's had a few drinks? Never falls over, until somebody shouts, "Timber!" I've seen your car, Frank.
Yes, indeed.
I reckon you'll get a very good mileage out of that, as long as you don't stop pedalling.
Well, I've got a marvellous car. It's a Ford Cantina. And,
what was the Ford Concertina?
No.
You've seen all the dents in it. It's a Ford Concertina.
Yes, indeed. It's an old car. In actual fact, it's so old the registration book's in Latin. Lovely two-tone car, black and rust.
Well, on that point, we'll go straight to tall tale number 1 and see whether you can explain why this happened. Anthony Smith is the subject of this tale. He was a small-time felon. He escaped from prison, and he thought his freedom was secure when he'd been out for 3 years. Then he made a fatal blunder which led to his recapture. What was his mistake? Ray?
Well, I think it was he went back to see if there was any mail for him. No. His mistake was, while he was in strange ways, he developed some strange ways. And anyone doing that sort of thing in Tesco's is bound to get caught. What? Serves him right.
I heard it on the news that 2 prison football teams escaped from Dartmoor this afternoon, and police have described it as a catch-22 situation.
Well, I think what happened was he found Lord Luke and went back for the reward money.
Once the police described a fugitive trying to escape from Britain as having a Barry Manilow nose, and the Heathrow security people arrested Concorde.
Well, there was the classic case of the two fellows who escaped. One was 7'4" and the other was 3'9", and the police were looking high and low for them.
Did you hear about the three-fingered pickpocket who only steals bowling balls?
During the war, my little Uncle Willie, he was head of the escape committee at Colditz, and he helped hundreds to escape with a very daring plan. He crossed a mole with an elephant, so it'd dig bigger tunnels. Stop the cop!
Well, a friend of mine went into the police station, and he said, "Who are all those people up there?" He said, "They're terrorists." He said, "and murderers and bank robbers." He said, "and we're looking for them." He says, "Well, why didn't you arrest them when you took the photographs?"
I think this...
Yes, it happened in Ireland, though, that they arrested the fella in the middle. They're still looking for the other two. It's funny now, that small-time felon, it brings to mind of the fella who took his wife out at Christmas, and she said, "I'd love that fur coat," and he threw a brick through the window and grabbed the coat. And then she says, "I'd love that necklace at the jeweller's," and he threw a brick through that, and he stole the necklace. And then she came to another big jeweler. She says, "I'd love that diamond ring," and he threw another brick. And then she came to this shoe shop. She said, "I'd love those shoes." He says, "Don't be stupid, you think I'm made of bricks."
What was the answer? That's what we want to know. What is the answer?
Well, you haven't found the mistake, although you've got very creative there, and I think there's half points in a way to Ray and to Frank here, because this is what happened. Smith's mistake, which led to the recognition and the recapture, was a fundamental one. After 3 years, he became overconfident and took a job as a labourer at Scotland Yard. So when you said he went back after 3 years to check the mail or whatever, you were quite close. So half a point for
Thank
that.
you. Very good.
Thank you very much.
And now we move on. Solve this one if you can. This story concerns the embarrassment of a golfer, Mr. Robert Hibbards, who got into trouble playing on an unfamiliar golf course at Stoke-on-Trent. Mr. Hibbards did well on the 1st, 3rd, 5th and 7th greens, but found himself getting nowhere on the 2nd, 4th, 6th and 8th greens, at which point he gave up. What was ruining Mr. Hibbards' performance?
One word.
Yep.
Husbands.
I know nothing about golf, I must be honest. Now, how on earth can a man push a lawnmower for half an hour, call it work, and yet push a golf trolley all day and call it recreation? Doesn't make sense at all. No, damn silly game.
Well, I'm a great... I love sports.
Well, you would.
And, of course, I'm a golfer as
You're
well.
a silly ass, of course.
Well, you were the one that...
Well, I've got a black belt in Ludo.
Of course you did.
Somebody said you thought that Ballesteros is a village somewhere in Ireland.
So it is.
Ken, how can anybody call golf a rich man's game when there are so many poor players? It's ridiculous.
Ruination of a good walk.
Of
Yes,
course
I
it is.
remember playing golf the other day, and of course, as you know, my eyesight isn't that good at the moment.
What's your handicap?
His
Well,
age.
my wife, for a start. And my 5 grandchildren make it even worse. In actual fact, one of them said to me this morning, "Grandad, can I come out and caddy for you?" I said, "Of course you can." So I brought her out to caddy for me, and she's pulling the trolley around, and I can't remember what the end of the story was. So tell me that. I know it was funny when I started.
See, golf, it's a bit like life. You're out of one hole and then you're heading for another. And Stoke, that's where this place was. Stoke, not only famous for pottery, great inventors there. There's the man who invented sandpaper braces for people with itchy backs.
Why would you start to tell lies in front of
Because
people
I-
who are listening to this?
because
There
I
are
like to-
children probably listening.
I
to
like
the
to
program.
keep fit. You're a bit like me, low-chested, and I thought it was about time. New Year, I thought, New Year's resolution, start keeping fit. So I bought myself a rowing machine. First time I used it, it sank. I used to do a bit of boxing.
Yeah.
Not saying I had a glass jaw. I used to wash my face with Gwendolyn.
Well, I probably only box you on a cauliflower bum. fact, I had adverts on the soles of my shoes. Oh, let's get away from this. All this activity. It's driving me mad.
Yes, what's the answer to the question?
What's the answer to the question, Mr. Frost?
Quick.
Well, the answer to this question is that Mr. Hibbard's problems stemmed from the fact this was not only an unfamiliar golf course to the good Mr. Hibbard's, but it was a totally new one opened that day by the Lord Mayor. And Mr. Hibbard's was the first to tee off, and he it was who discovered that no holes had been cut on alternate greens.
Oh.
So that was the explanation. Time now for agony aunts, because we need the advice of this wise group to tell us what these poor people should do. This is a plea for help from a man in Woking. My wife was plump and jolly when I married her. But since then, she's read too many women's magazines and has become a health food freak. We have muesli and yogurt for breakfast instead of bacon and egg. Nuts and salad for dinner instead of steak and chips. Now she's even cut off my black pudding.
Oh.
The result of all this is she's getting skinny and I'm getting hungry. What can I do about it, Ray?
Well, I think that now she's cut off his black pudding, he can eat that. Oh, dear. If you want to lose weight, though, skipping's very good. You can skip breakfast, skip lunch, skip tea. It'll do it for him. And it's every time.
Well, my wife, I have a problem. My wife is very obese or fat. Let's call it bed. It's probably. I have to stand up in bed in the morning to save his daylight. In actual fact, I was crawling over her the other morning and I burnt my backside on the bulb.
Lord Charles, you know, the Queen Victoria, probably a near relation, Queen Victoria was a very plump lady. She was the first one to say, "We are not amuselized."
That's right. Yes, yes.
Start the car.
But what should this lady do, Ken? You know
it's
about
probably
food.
When people get married, the opposites are attracted to each other, you know. I mean, I know a couple who just got married and they've proved opposites do attract. She was pregnant and he wasn't. A lot of people believe in mixed marriages, you know. I know one fellow, he's a vegetarian and she's a cow.
Well, I never eat breakfast at all because I hate eating on an empty stomach.
There must be something in this herbal medicine.
Definitely.
I mean, with you particularly, Frank, you don't look a day over 103.
Yes, I always remember
You're on the
that.
ginseng, aren't you?
Yeah.
Every time you have gin?
You see? Well, there was an old friend of mine. I said to him he was 74. He says, my grandfather's getting married. She said, what is your grandfather? He said, 102. I said, what the hell do you want to get married at that age for? He says, he doesn't want to, he has to.
I don't think you know. You told me that anorexia was a Greek au pair girl.
Isn't she?
Well, I don't think you've really solved this poor person's problem.
I'm delighted to say.
Well, my advice to him is get another wife who will give him black pudding and plenty of food, because it's obvious this woman is only thinking of herself.
Here, here.
Yeah, lovely. And if it's the wife that wrote in, I'm sorry, love.
Right. Give your advice now to Mr. P. Dixon or Mrs. P. Dixon. We don't know.
Yep.
But the writer is clearly in a dilemma about one thing or another.
That's a small village in Ireland dilemma.
It is now. It's one of those Yugoslavian saloons.
The writer is in a dilemma. For years, I've been giving a colleague lifts to work, which I've been more than happy to do. Imagine my shock on finding that all this time he had his own car.
Oh.
Obviously, he just uses me to save petrol. What course of action does our wise men's panel recommend?
Well,
Do you
try
notice
and
this
get a
way-
vehicle that his colleague wouldn't be seen dead in. Try a hearse.
This must be the same fellow that took me to a drive-in restaurant and kept the windows closed.
Lord Charles has just had his cigarette lighter converted to unleaded.
Buy a bicycle.
Buy a bicycle?
Yes, and then you wouldn't have to give him a lift unless he sits on the handlebars. In that case, you buy a girl's bike. And then he's got to sit in the pedals.
There's a lot of questions here to be answered.
Of course there is.
Yes.
I'd like to hear one of them.
Well,
Yes.
I'd like you to ask me one of them.
are bald tyres hereditary?
Certainly.
And if you can buy antifreeze, why can't you buy Uncle Freeze?
Yeah. You know how to make your own antifreeze.
Hide nitrate.
Always remember
They make their own brownies.
a girl in the car is worth 6 in a phone box. That's the main thing. Remember that.
You drive along to these motorways, get to these motorways, and you see I was driving by the Watford Gap the other day, I saw this young kid at the side of the stage holding my notes. It says Glasgow. Now, he's not kidding. Glasgow's much further north than the Watford Gap.
Yes, of course it is.
Of course it is.
Yes, and when you're a young man, you always want to see the man in the moon. And when you get about older, you want to see the girl in the sun.
These people who stand by the motorways always want to lift. Now, if you see a completely nude man standing with a loofah, does it mean he's going to Bath?
Well, you know what? It's my 40th wedding anniversary next week, by the way. I'll be 40 years married. It's just like yesterday. You know the bloody awful day yesterday. And I can remember the wedding. It was just like a new house. My wife was freshly painted and I was plastered.
He married a half-wit just because she was 50% off. It's true. Oh, Frank, he wanted to save money on his honeymoon, so he went alone.
I remember this police officer, and he said to these two, "What are you doing in that car?" And they said, "We're doing the Charleston." Then he said to the next couple in another car, "What are you doing in there?" I said, "We're doing the Foxtrot." And then he comes to you, and all the windows were clouded and steamed, and he said, "I suppose you're doing the Bossa Nova." She said, "No, I'm doing the Bossa Favor."
Right. On then to tall tale number 4 on that happy note. Thank you for your advice. Bank clerk Bernard Lee is the subject of our next tall tale. True tall tale? We want to know your explanations. He was sacked for continually coming to work in an unshaven condition. He complained of unfair dismissal and took his case to an industrial tribunal. On what grounds did Mr. Lee base his complaint? Ray?
He was bald, but he had Dennis Healy eyebrows.
Now, you know, Frank, I was... This tribunal business, and you know, I know what you're like. You know about, you know, I know you have a good head for money.
I have.
Got a slot in the top. And I thought you may have been able to advise this man. I thought you may have advised me, because I'm in dispute now. I'm going to take him to tribunal with the BBC. I told them they'd have to pay me what I'm worth, and they said they weren't allowed to pay anybody below the minimum wage. He said, "I know they have to make cutbacks because my fee's been frozen." As soon as I opened my pay packet last week, a little light came on. Never mind.
Well, I have a cheque which I got from the BBC, and it's in a glass case in my house, and it's for £1.84 from Malaysia, a repeat of this show. I have underneath an emergency break glass.
What I want to know is, if money doesn't grow on trees, why do banks have so many branches?
I know what's happening
See,
here.
aftershaves.
I think there's a bit of the thespian in this man, and he would probably be rehearsing for a play.
Thespian.
Who?
Thespian. Yeah.
Oh, this man was what did I say? Oh, this man...
The other lot is about ladies who don't shave.
Well, I can always remember a young lady who was a lesbian.
No!
Although I must admit...
No!
But I just...
No!
I was going to say, what part of lesbian do you come from? That was all. Yeah.
This man is before the tribunal. This man has gone before the tribunal because he didn't shave, right? And because some of these aftershaves now, they're very, very pleasant. I don't know, what do you use? Brute, I suppose?
I use Brute.
But these aftershaves, they're very big business. There's a new
smell.
one out now. There's a new one out now for very sexy young men called Say When. Now, I use one called Say If.
Well, there's a lovely... They're talking about that. There's a lovely aftershave you spread on yourself.
You use one called So What?
There's a new aftershave on the market, obviously from Japan.
Yes.
And you spread on, you disappear, and everyone wonders where the smell's coming from.
That's a fantastic... Fantastic sort of aftershave cologne now for men.
Yeah.
It smells like money.
Oh, boy.
Women go crazy for it.
Aye.
I tell you, I went to my hairdresser and I said...
You should have stuck with the other guy.
I went to my hairdresser, he said, I don't remember you coming here before. I said, I've been here several times. He said, I don't remember your face. I said, well, you wouldn't. It's healed up now.
Oh, dear. Remember the digs we went to? Do you remember the digs we went to in Scunthorpe, Frank?
Oh, very well.
And the lady said, the landlady said to you, have you got a good memory for faces?
I
and
said,
yeah. Why? She said, oh, there's no shaving mirror.
I loved it when she said, you remember she said, I shouldn't give you this room. There's a dirty old man across the street, and every night at 10 o'clock, he strips off naked and admires himself in front of a full-length mirror. I said, that's disgusting. So I got up on my toes to have a look. She says, no, get on top of the wardrobe.
Well, now, on what grounds did Mr. Lee here, poor Mr. Lee, in his unshaven condition, on what grounds did he base his complaint?
Was he a Sikh?
No.
Was he a Sikh wearing a turban? Because that
No.
often...
Yeah.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Good thought. Good
There was
thought.
Shamrock
there
and
are
be an
certain-
Irish Sikh.
There are certain organisations where the men have to wear beards.
That's true,
In a nudist colony, for
Colony,
instance.
yes.
Somebody has to go for the groceries.
That's right. And in Nudist Colony, I done a show there, and when they sat down, it was like a round of applause.
Well, I don't think you're going to get this.
I don't think we're going to
No,
get
we're
it,
not
because
gonna
it's
get
such
it.
an obvious... I would think it's a very obvious answer, Mr. Frost.
Tell us what it is.
Well, so obvious that you haven't reached this answer. The unshaven but crafty Mr. Lee alleged sexual discrimination. He pointed out that while he was sacked for not shaving every day, female bank clerks were not required to do this. He lost his case, but said it was fun while it lasted.
That's why I look like that. For all my life, I've used oil of Olay.
Industrial strength.
Oh, dear.
Right, your final tall tale for today. Consider, if you will, the plight of Mrs. Charlotte Warnes of Folkestone, a pensioner. This lady has to consult a document before deciding whether or not she can take a bath. What might the document be?
It's almost certainly something to do with the lease. There must be some clause in the lease where where they're not allowed to, because they do this a lot in Folkestone, where they're not allowed to burn rubbish on a Saturday.
I remember a friend of mine went for a bath, and the fellow said, would you like a plug? He said, why, is it electric? What about the fellow who got his toast? Oh, no, I better not tell that one either, no.
It takes you back when you were kids. You know, you all got bathed in the old tin bath.
Yeah.
In the tin bath in front of the fire with a brick under one end. The older you got, the deeper you sat. That was it.
Yes, I like that. The
It
nearest
was the
thing
order of the bath. Kids first, then the whippets, then your granddad.
You see, I think the answer to this question really is that the thing is obvious. It's because in Folkestone the water level is higher than it is in because of the tunnel. Now they're digging that now in Dover. But when they're digging the tunnel in Dover, the water level drops down a bit because now they say it's behind. Well, you can't fall all the time, half the time, but you can have half the time all the time because no man is an island. And he who laughs last is a silly ass, and that's why we must not look back and go forward. And as we go forward, we can look back and say, by Jove, we're going forward because we're British, we're not foreigners. That's why we're British. Even when we go overseas, we're still British. The poor devils that live there that are all foreigners. So let us stand together side by side and hand in hand we can say it to ourselves at the end of the road, here we are. Where the hell are we? Well, that's the answer. What was the question? I've no idea.
My wife.
Do you know that they won't allow Frank Carson to go into the sea at Folkestone? Because he leaves a ring on the shore.
Well, they had to put my wife off the beach in Blackpool to let the tide in. I wonder what that document would be. Oh, yes, it would have to be to find out if there was a certain amount of chlorine or something in the water because she was allergic to that.
Perhaps she had to check what day the window cleaner came round because she loved to wring out his chamois.
Certainly, yes. Yes, I knew a one-arm window cleaner, actually. I used to wring his chamois out. And,
I know. She lived next door to a lighthouse, and the lighthouse keeper enjoyed giving her a quick flash before trimming his wick.
I knew an Arab window cleaner called Sheikh Mishami. Having studied at Queen's University for 2 years on documentation, I would think this document would be a prima facie case for habeas corpus, which resulted
Only if there's an hour in the month, though.
Eh?
Only if there's an hour in the month.
Exactly, and you should never eat oysters when there's an hour in the month.
No.
July, August, October, July, September, September.
What was the document?
No
friends?
idea.
I haven't a clue,
No
Mr.
idea.
Frost.
The document Mrs. Warnes consults at bath time is a bus timetable. There's a bus stop outside her home, and top deck passengers can see into her bathroom.
What
She
time
claims
is
the
that bus,
windows
by the
are
way?
too tall to be fitted with curtains all the way up.
Yeah.
The only bath I would be really loath to take, the one that would really worry me, were these rugby players. You know,
yes,
if I ever played rugby, which I don't think I ever will now, because and there's how many? 50?
15 of them.
50, all in one big communal bath.
yeah.
It must be hell when they're looking.
you do
when,
believe?
when they're looking for the soap.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Can you imagine if they'd been out the Heinz beatings?
Oh.
Well, like a jacuzzi.
Well, that's all we've got time for today, I'm afraid. If you have any tall tales to amaze us with or personal problems you'd like discreetly aired, we'd love to hear from you. For now, this is David saying thank you for joining us on behalf of Ken Dodd, Frank Carson, Ray Allen and Lord Charles, Andrew Palmer and NELL Brennan, who devised and researched, and our beloved producer, Edward Taylor. We hope you'll join us again next time.